Hey, it's your open source advocate, and I am back with another video. This week I want to cover a video about password management. So, forever passwords have been the bane of our existence. They're a pain. It's getting worse. It's really easy for hackers to hack passwords these days, and with all of the data breaches that have happened over the past few years, I promise you, if you have an email or a username and password combination that you use pretty regularly, it's out there. And somebody's got it, and eventually they're going to get to your accounts if they haven't already. So the best thing you can do is really have a different, strong password for every account that you own. And there's different theories on what a strong password is. I'm not going to get into that. The first is basically use a combination of letters, upper and lowercase, numbers, and symbols. The second is use multiple words that don't have anything to do with each other with a space in between. So I want to go through one today that's open source and free, of course, and it's called Bitwarden. It's really nice. It's got a Chrome extension, and it's got a Firefox extension, and I believe it's got a Safari extension. So it plugs right into your browser, and it makes it super easy to use and set up. I'm gonna get right into this. So I'm gonna set this up on DigitalOcean. Again, I love DigitalOcean. They make it so easy to set these kind of things up, and this is another one-click install kind of application. So it's gonna be pretty fast for us today. But there's some really great features in this thing. So let's get to it. I'm gonna go up to Create, and I'm going to go to Droplets because this is what they call their virtual servers. And I will put a link in the description for DigitalOcean so that if you're not signed up and you want to, when you sign up, you'll get $50 of credit for the first 30 days of your use with DigitalOcean, which is awesome because we're going to use a $10 server today. That's $10 a month. So that means you could set up 5 of those servers to try out some of these one-click applications, and you could do that for a month with no charge. And if you destroy those servers, DigitalOcean is not going to charge you anything unless you leave one running for multiple months. Then it'll start charging you whatever that fee is. But the $50 for 30 days is a great way to try out their services and see what they have to offer. They have some really cool stuff. So I'm going to leave it on Ubuntu. That's the one I prefer. You can pick any of these distros, whatever's your favorite. I'm going to click on Marketplace, and I'm going to go over here and select Bitwarden. I'm just going to start scrolling down past all of the one-click install applications, which are just insane in number at this point, and they keep adding more. I keep noticing more every time we come through. I'm going to leave it on standard. Now, if you need better performance, you can pick one of these. They always drop you on the $40 droplet. If you click this little left arrow, you can come over here and pick one of these. I tried this on the $5 droplet yesterday, and it had some little issues that I wasn't sure if it was related to the $5 droplet or me just learning how to do it. So I'm going to stick with the $10, but if you feel like trying the $5, you can. And if it works, that's awesome. It didn't seem to use a lot of resource once it was set up, but it does seem like it wants some RAM because it does use MS SQL, Microsoft SQL. But other than that, I mean, $10 droplet seems great. So I'm going to move on down. So you can enable the backups if you're running this as a production system. This is always smart. Block storage, I don't think you'll need with this system because passwords and things just don't take up a lot of space. I'm going to leave it on New York. Again, pick whatever area or region is closest to you geographically for your server hosting area. We're going to get down here to the additional options that they have, which I don't need at this time. SSH keys or passwords. So if you don't have your SSH keys set up, you can just do a one-time password and it'll email that to you, and then you can use that to log in and change it the first time you log in. I'm going to stay with SSH keys, and I'm going to pick that first one in the list right here. We'll keep moving. And down here, you just put in, now this does require a domain name if you want to get the Let's Encrypt certificates set up. So I have one that I'm going to use, a BW for Bitwarden. Open source is awesome.com. I always want to make sure that I spell that correctly. Now here it doesn't matter as much, but eventually it's going to matter. So this just lets me know which server this is. So I'm going to click on Create Droplet. Again, this is just being resourced out for the RAM and the CPU, and then it installs the application for you. And in this case, it starts the application install, but until I log in through the terminal, it's not going to finish. So we'll go through that process as well. It's really easy. It's a bunch of scripts, but you want to have some things set up ahead of time. So the first thing we have to do is get the IP address of this server it's creating for us, and we're going to go and stick that into our domain name registrar's information for an A record. So I use Hover, and if you're interested in Hover, I'll put a link down at the bottom where you can sign up and register with Hover. It's pretty easy. You get a list of the, when you sign in, you get a list of the domains that you own. You click on the domain that you want to work with, and then right here is this DNS. So initially it comes to the overview, and then you just click on DNS. You can see I've got my main A record here and then some other stuff. So I'm going to just go over here to add, and I do want an A record, and the host I'm going to give is BW for Bitwarden. And then I need that IP address. Let me make sure that I copied it. I think I did, but just to be sure that I've got it, and I'm just going to paste that in. And then I'm going to set this to 5 minutes since we're trying to do this video. And that's set. So you can see right here, BW with our IP address. I'm going to go back over here to DigitalOcean, make sure I've still got this copied. I'm going to bring up my terminal. So I'm going to let this wait for just a few minutes, and I'll come back, and then we'll actually log in through the terminal and make sure that we can log into that server through the domain name that we just gave it. So we're going to do in just a minute is SSH root at bw.opensourceisawesome.com. When we hit enter, that should go, and it should use my SSH key, so it's not even going to prompt me for a password. It'll ask me, do I want to go to this place for the first time that I do it, so that it makes sure that I'm wanting to do that. I'm going to say yes, and it'll continue on. So we'll be back in just a minute. Alright, giving it some time here, it should be more than ready to go. So we're going to go ahead and SSH into our server. And like I said, it's going to prompt you since this is the first time you're SSHing in. And it loads up, we get the splash screen, and the first thing it asks for is the domain. So I'm going to put in bw.opensourceisawesome.com. Double check my spelling. Looks good. Wants to know if we want Let's Encrypt, which I do. So I'm going to hit Y. And then the email address. So brian@fixitdelrio.com. It's going to go out and pull all of the Docker images. This usually just takes a few seconds. It's really fast. It goes out and gets some encryption certificates, things like that. It's going to do the part with Let's Encrypt. So we get a congratulations message there from Let's Encrypt, which is great. Okay, so we get the congratulations message from Let's Encrypt, and the next thing it wants is an installation ID from Bitwarden itself. So there's this link here that it wants us to go to. So I'm going to click on that link, and it wants an email address, and I'll use the same one that I've used before, and I'm going to hit submit. And here it gives me the ID and a key, so we're going to need both of these things. So I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to paste it in there, hit enter, and then it wants the key. One more time, we paste it in, hit enter. So now it's going to generate an encryption level for the actual passwords that we would be storing inside of Bitwarden. Just takes a little bit of time, and it generates that stuff. It's going to go through and do another build here for all of the things that it's pulling from Docker. The one that takes the longest is MS SQL. It's just bigger than the rest of these things, but that's to be expected. As you watch this, you'll notice that when it extracts, it does it several times. So I'm not sure what's happening there, but it'll get to 100% and then start again, and it goes a little quicker the next time. Not sure what the process is in the background there with Docker. So it basically goes through another process here, and it tried to re-up the cert already, so it didn't need to. It gives you that message. I think this is kind of a self-updating process, so it installs the version that you have, and then it goes out and tries to self-update. So this is the part that I got to when I did the $5 DigitalOcean droplet, and it failed. It said that the container never came online. We may get that message again, and what I'm going to do is basically run through the update process if it does, just to see if it'll come online in time to get everything running, but I'm hoping it's going to go through fine in this case. And it looks like everything completed successfully. I don't see any error messages. So now what we need to do is go over to our Bitwarden site. So we've done the DigitalOcean step. We've of course gone in and set up our A record inside of our domain name settings. And I'm going to go and just open up, I'll close this, or actually I'll just change sites. You can see that I've already got this URL set. It's going to load up. So the first time we actually have to create an account. It's not just something magical that has a default login. So it's got my email address. I'll just put in my name. And then you need a master password, and you want this to be a strong password, so we talked about that earlier. Bitwarden has a system that kind of detects whether your password is strong or not, so we'll just set one. And it seems to think that's a good strong password. I'm going to do it one more time. Now, out of all of the things that you do with Bitwarden, this is one of the things you want to remember: the email and the master password. If you lose this master password, this is what everything is encrypted with. You will not be able to get to your password storage, so you always want to keep an eye on what this is. You can put in a hint. Yeah, you should really put in a hint that helps you remember what this is, but you don't want to put in something that's too obvious, because someone else could try to get the hint and then figure out what your password is. Alright, so it seems to have created our account. Now it wants us to actually log in with that master password. And here we are. So it's going to load up a couple of things. It's just telling us that we're not part of any organizations yet. This is a pretty cool feature. So a feature like this makes it really nice, because now we've got encrypted passwords. You share that stuff with your team. They can access those things as they need to, and it helps you with your client success at the same time. So this is a really nice feature. Now, for personal password management, it's not something you may use, but maybe you have a family and there's a family account where each person in the family needs access to that password. You can create an organization that is your family for that account. If we just kind of start over here on the left, so there are some premium features for Bitwarden. This is how they support their ongoing development. So if you're interested, I think it's $10 a year. It's really not much. Might be worth it for some of the features that they're offering. So just to start off, you can search and find all of your information, your different passwords, but you can create password groups. I do use normally the Bitwarden online available offering. So Bitwarden has their own online available offering that you can use. You don't have to set up your own server, but I like the idea that I can do a self-hosted server. But they do offer it. It's free. Again, it has the premium option where you can pay for that. So it's convenient for me just because I don't have to manage this server myself. But I wanted to show you that this is out there and that it can be done. I do kind of like the concept that I could self-host it if I want to. So far, I've been really happy with Bitwarden and their service. They're doing some really great work, and I want to try to support that by using what they've got and giving them feedback at the very least. I'm thinking about going ahead and doing the $10 premium option, actually. So it's pretty easy to add an item, and you can choose from different types of items that you add. Most of mine end up being logins. Now you can do this manually. There's a notes section, which is really great. So like for two-factor authentication, I have the login information stored, but not the actual OTP stuff here. I use a different OTP app. But there's always a backup set of codes for OTP, just in case you lose your app or your phone gets crushed and you can't re-log in. You should grab those codes and put them here in the notes, so that if you ever need to access those, you've got them in Bitwarden. And again, this is something that gets synced across the internet. Bitwarden has their own servers, so my stuff's getting synced to their servers. In this case, you'd be getting synced to your own servers. It syncs between your devices, your browsers, things like that. So you can access those things pretty easily from multiple places, and that's a good way to store those backup codes. So the easier way than going through and doing it manually, which sometimes you need to, but I've got a site open here that I run, and I'm going to go here. First, I'm going to go to the Bitwarden extension. So in Chrome, you can go add the Bitwarden extension. and here it wants me to log in or create an account. So I'm going to go here first to the settings, and you can see I've got it set to my site for bw.opensourceisawesome.com. If you blank this out, it defaults to go to the Bitwarden site that they host. So if you want to change this, you have to do exactly what I just did, which is install the extension. Before you log in or do anything, go to the little settings gear icon and put in your server URL. I don't have to fill any of the rest of that stuff out. And then when you go to log in, so it's already got my email, and I'm going to use my password that I just created. This is that master password. That's why it's really important for you to remember what that is. And I suggest it actually be a little longer than the one I've got, but I'm going to log in here. It's going to go out and hit my server, and then it's going to load up, and it shows I don't have any passwords stored, and it's sad. So that's okay. Down here you've got your folder for all the passwords where you're storing things, kind of your main database, so you can add things straight from here. You don't have to do it from the web interface that we saw. You've also got your password files. Here you've got your password generator, which is a great feature. I love this. So if you can't come up with unique passwords on your own, you can basically tell it, here's what I want. So basically you can say regenerate the password, and you see it changes. Down here though, you can set the rules for how long you want it to be, uppercase, lowercase, numbers, symbols, and then below that how many of the numbers and symbols it should use. So it's really a great feature, and you do this actually when you're creating an account. It's a super great feature because then you save that password with that account. So I'll show you that here in just a minute. On the settings side, so there's quite a few settings in here that you can change and really make this thing just a really great application. So first you can tell it to sync your passwords if you need to. So if it didn't sync automatically, you can go in here and actually tell it to sync. You can create folders. So we talked about folders earlier. This is where you do that through the settings. So you can separate out things like personal, business. Maybe you do things for other companies, for other people. So here you can tell Bitwarden how to lock. You can go down and tell it lock now, but you can also choose whether it's time-based or action-based. So it's a pretty nice feature, but it'll lock the extension. Basically forces you to log back in, and then of course you've got two-factor authentication capability that you can turn on. So a lot of settings here that you can look at and check out. Definitely worth going through. Okay, so I've got a site here that I manage. So I'm going to click on log in. Now it's got my email and password already set, but that's through the browser. I'm trying to get to where I don't have all this stuff in the browser anymore. So when I click on login, you saw it pop up real quick. So here it is. This banner up here is Bitwarden saying, hey, I noticed you just did something that I don't see in my database. Do you want to add it to the database? So you just click on this button right here to say yes. If you don't, just put in here no. But in this case I do. So now if I go back into Bitwarden and look, you can see it's set for this site that I went to. So if I go away from this site to Google, there's nothing here. So if I click, it doesn't have any Google logins for me. But if I come back to this site, you see there's a little 1. So it tells you that it has a password for this site when it sees the URL up in the address bar. So that's what makes the extension really cool. Now I can click on this to fill in my credentials, so I'll log back out. And then we'll do login again. I'll just kind of blank these out because again the browser is remembering them. So I'll click away from it, but again it says it sees a password, so I can click on it. I click and it's going to fill those in for me, and then I can just log in. It's already got them stored. Now I know you're thinking, oh man, I got to click every time I go to a site. No, so just how the browser logs in. If you go into Bitwarden and you go into the settings now, then you're going to go into options. Right here is enable autofill whenever it comes up. So if you just enable this feature, whenever the site comes up and it sees that Bitwarden has a login for it, it's going to autofill it for you. So it actually can save you a couple of clicks. I don't have it enabled yet, but you just check the box there, and then hit the back button. So I'll log back out. So now when I do login, of course the browser already has it filled. Let me blank it. Okay, it's blank, blank. Don't know if this is going to work since the browser has it to fill it in. But if I do login, it's filled anyway. So either the browser does it or Bitwarden does it. Now here you can see this verify email. If you just click the button and you haven't set up your email settings in the configuration file, it's going to look like it did something, but you're never going to get the email. It's going to be a little bit frustrating. So I want to show you where that's at. And here you can see actually on the site that it has now this login saved. So you can actually click on it. And you can copy the password. You can launch the site. You can see attachments. You can share this thing with someone. And of course you can delete it. So let's go back into our website here. So I'm going to show you what's in this directory. And this one that says BW data is the important one. So we're going to go inside of it. And now I'm going to show you what's in that directory. So you can see here's your Let's Encrypt folder with your Let's Encrypt information. There's a few other things in here that are important. But really, the one that we want to look at is this env. So we're going to go into that one. That's environment. And again, we'll look. So we want this global.override.env. This is the one we want to edit. So nano global, and then you can tab to autocomplete. And here you can see all of the environment variables that are getting set whenever you start up the Bitwarden server. So down here, this first one that says mail starts the mail area. So I'm going to go and set these settings up for mail, and it just assumes that this is going to be what you want for your reply mail. I'm not going to use that. And then we'll go here, and it's actually and we're going to change this. No, I think that's 587. That's correct. And SSL in my case is true. Now the username I have to fill in, and the password I have to fill in. So right here is disable user registration. So if you're running this server and you don't want other users to be able to register on your server, if this is your own private personal server, you would change this to true. So that they can't do that. So change this to true to stop people from registering on your server. I'm just going to leave it for false right now because I'm gonna get rid of it after we're done with this. But once you've set these settings, I know there's one more setting. So whenever you do this, we actually need to add another variable here. So it's global settings __ mail __ SMTP __ trust server. And you need to have that set to true like I have here. And what this is doing is telling it, I know this server, this is my server, and I trust this server's certificates. What they've run into is a little bit of an issue with the Let's Encrypt certificates that you can get on certain mail servers. And in my case, I use Let's Encrypt on my mail server. And it stops the email from going through. So by adding this configuration setting, you get that email to go through. So if you're having issues, this might be something that you try first just to see if it will actually go through, if you feel like everything else you have entered is correct. If you use Gmail, I never got Gmail to work. I did not try it with this setting, but it never worked. And Gmail is always tricky because they have a lot of they have a system that says, hey, I don't think this is you, I'm not going to send this email. So you have to go in and set up some special security settings to allow Gmail to be sending email from a third party. So I use my own mail server, and it's much easier, but you do need this setting right here if you have a similar setup. So I'm going to save my changes, exit out of that, so Control O and then hit enter to save, and then Control X to get out of Nano. Now we have to restart the service. So if we ls again, so you see that sh file, we have to do /bitwarden.sh, and then we're going to do restart, and this is going to go out and actually pull in those changes, look for any updates. It's going to basically restart the server for us. It just takes a few seconds for this to actually do its thing. It'll go out and make sure everything's up to date. And that's it. It says Bitwarden is up to date. It says we can run the updates for update self to update the actual script, and then update to actually update all of the Docker containers and rerun it. But everything should be back up and running now. And we're going to refresh. Now it's going to make us log back in when we do that, which is good. So we put in our master password again. And alright, so we're back in, and it still has this link, so I'm going to click the button. We'll see if it actually gets me an email. You get the little spinner. I got a green sign. That's good. Now, before I set this up, I also would have gotten the green sign because it just tricks you. So once I tried to set up the settings and I didn't have that last trust server setting, it did give me a red toast message that let me know it didn't work. So we're going to go into my email here. I believe this is the one from yesterday. I didn't delete it yet. I'm going to go look for new ones. Yep, there we go. So of course we want the one from today. You get this email, you can tell that I trust this stuff, so you can see the whole thing. And then here's this button. You're just going to click this button to verify who you are. It's going to open up a new tab. It's going to ask you to log in again. And we're good. Now it wants to know, should it store the password for itself? No. I suggest you don't do that, but you could. So now you don't see that little area that says, hey, click on this button to verify your email address. So we've done a couple of steps here to give us a little bit more access to some settings. So if we actually go into the settings here, you can set up an avatar. There's a lot of settings through here that you might want to set up and change. So first of all, you can change your email address if you need to in this section. You can of course change your master password. You can set up different encryption keys than you already have set, and then down here of course you can delete everything and get rid of stuff. So you want to be really careful. They mark it the danger zone on purpose. On options, so your lock options 15 minutes, so this is very similar to what you see in the extension, so I'm just going to leave it at what it's set on, but you can change it. The language, you can set this to what you want, but it's using the browser right now, which is what default is, so I'm just going to leave it. So remember, I talked about organizations. So if you had a family or you work in a business where you maybe need to have groups of people who belong to different quote-unquote organizations, this is how you share information between those people within those organizations. So you can share those passwords with those people. They can edit them and change them if they need to, and it keeps everybody in sync and up to date. So here you can go premium, so it's $10 a year. Here's all the features you get whenever you go premium, which is pretty nice. There's some pretty cool stuff that they have set up that you can get. Again, this supports the development of the open source software, so $10 a year if you can afford that. Highly recommend doing it. Once you do this, you'll get a license file, and then you upload that license file right here, and then hit submit to give you all of the premium features. You can set up your two-step verification, your two-factor login, basically. And again, you can use an OTP app. This is included. You can also use email. This is included. So before you set up email and two-factor, you want to make sure that email is working. If you set this up and it's not working and you try to log in, you won't be able to because you can't get an email. So you really need to make sure that your email stuff is working before you set this one up. This one uses an OTP app like Google, or you can use the free OTP app or any of the other one-time password type applications on your devices. These are really great. I like this. It doesn't depend on email or text message that way, and it's always there for you to open up and use. It's not dependent on internet connectivity except to set it up the first time. These other features that they have, so like Ubico, Duo, these are part of that premium package. So if you're using those today and you want to continue to use those, then you would set those up by getting the premium package. Finally, there's domain rules. I don't mess with this at all. You are more than welcome to look through this and see what you think you need to do with it, but I'm just leaving it alone for now, but it is here as part of the settings. So on tools, again, they have the password generator here on the website. So if you just need help generating passwords because you feel like you're not creative enough, you can do that. So here's password, here's passphrase. So remember where I said 3 words. So you can change this to 5 words. You can change the separator, and you can really make it give you those things. I love this concept for the sites that will let you do it. A lot of sites just haven't progressed enough to allow you to do these things, but I definitely think this is great, and Again, lots of theories on which way is better to make a strong password, but I think either one, if you're doing it well, is going to be a really good password. So you can import data, and there's all of these different places where you can import data from. So if you've been using a password manager before, or if you've been using the browser, you can get those things out of your browser and import those things in different ways into Bitwarden so that you've got them. I know a lot of people just use the browsers to do that. As you can see, I've done that in the past. I'm trying to move away from that, where I don't let the browser store it, but I actually use Bitwarden for that purpose. You can also export your vaults, so not even just to leave Bitwarden, but for having a good backup of the information, just in case something happens. It's really smart to do this, and probably to do this on some kind of schedule, once a week, once every 4 weeks, you know, whatever makes sense for you for how often you're adding information and changing passwords. Definitely worthwhile to do that. So again, some premium features that are probably pretty useful. So most of these are premium, but this bottom one is free. Now I tried to run this the other day. Again, I think you have to do some configuration on it first, but this report here is pretty nice because it says data breach report. So it looks for the email address that you're using, and it says, did I find your email address in any of these sites that have all of this information where there's been a data breach? And if I did, let me give you a report of all those sites and help you update those passwords. Now, if you want these other reports, they're part of the premium offering. So again, you would need to buy the premium offering and put in the license key, but then you can run those things. So if you're really looking, again, as a business or an organization, to make sure that your users are using really good passwords and strong passwords, and you're a person who just can't remember your passwords, you use the same password for everything, this is a great way to find out where you might be exposed and fix those things. Then of course we can go back to the main view here, and this is where you can add folders, create passwords, you know, put new things in, put in logins, put in keys, all kinds of information. This is really a nice system, and for it to be free and open source is even better than anything I've seen out there. LastPass is great, 1Password is great, but I really like that there's a great system out there that's got active development that you can support that has this capability. So I hope you'll really consider it and think about it. And if you're looking for something self-hosted, a one-click password on DigitalOcean makes it so easy. So again, I'll put a link down on the bottom, and you can go and start running your own Bitwarden server if you'd like to. Thanks for joining me this week. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. I'll keep putting out more videos. If you have comments to help me do better, let me know. I want to know those things so that I can improve and make sure that I'm making things that help you do things easier and better as we move forward. Thanks again.